Hello, Aquarius. Well, I was going to start somewhere else, but Aquarius just kept coming in with quite a lot of exuberance. So here's what I've got. The first thing that I got was the SWOOP song. I don't know what the SWOOP song is, so I looked it up. It is a song that was very popular back in the early 80s. But what really struck me was it's rhythm and blues and funk, it's dance, it's up, it's this. But when I went to play it on YouTube, it's on the album called Joystick by a band called DAZZ Band. And apparently they had quite a few, which I was not aware of in the early 80s. But the sense of it was, I want you. And it's all very up and you create an energy. And it's just really, really very much in keeping with the way I've been seeing Aquarius lately, which is really on the rise in terms of their own self-appreciation, not just self-appreciation, but their ability to enjoy their life. So what I see here is that in the past, what I'm being told is that when you came into resistance around you, your tendency was to adjust yourself and your behavior and your attitude and your beliefs in order to not create more resistance, or in order to deal and neutralize a little bit of the resistance that you were feeling. And that was a lot of what put you into the place of taking care of other people, being responsible for other situations. That tended to be how you dealt with it a lot. And that now your sense of who defines what's good and bad and right and wrong, it's in your hands and you've claimed it. And the two first cards that actually came out were love and power. Now, both of those cards are talking about living from the center of your being. And love, I want to bring this to you very specifically because your way of loving was, I believe, the first card actually that came out was abandonment. And abandonment can be many different things, as you know, but very often fundamentally what it is that sense of not having whatever kind of support you need, and that sense of being left alone without the resources to deal with whatever it is. And so when that happens in childhood, very often we can fall into the role almost of being caretakers as a way to kind of maintain a sense of importance, belonging, safety. Can lead us into being with people who are not necessarily there for us, therefore kind of letting us continue to live that sense of abandonment that's familiar. But then at the same time, we get to play out that role of trying to save the situation. But no more, Aquarius, you're cured. And I say cured because I'm joking about it a little bit, because I think that to say you're healed almost sounds a little bit too austere. That's not quite the word I want. Because I think there's more healing, because there is for all of us, but I also think it's more than healing. It's growth. You've grown. You've grown through. You've grown beyond. So the thing that I would like to present specifically is this card on love. I'm just going to, yes. It's something that radiates from us like light from a bonfire or dreams from a dreamer, rather than something we parcel out to some and not to others. Love in its purest form is a state of being which can influence our behavior, but does not rely on actions in order to be felt or to have a positive effect. Love does not demand reciprocity. So in the past, you may not have demanded reciprocity, but you also very much was giving love as opposed to radiating love, because radiating love just kind of fills up the space, and the people who are ready to catch it will catch it, and it will start this beautiful continuous energy ripple that moves throughout, which is where you're moving. And I didn't know I was going to say that, but that's literally how they're showing it to me. Whereas when it is love that you are giving to a certain person, you are giving it to that person. They may or may not receive it in the energy that it's given. They may not receive it as a loving act specifically, or they may not particularly care that it's a loving act. The idea that it is given to one person means it is very much directed, and that's from a personality. That's not radiating from a heart. So where you've grown to now, my very lovely Aquarians, is you've moved beyond that. Now, when you feel resistance to something, you check in with yourself. It's about you now that you're looking for, which is exactly how you're going to grow. It's also how you're defining what is right for you. This is where you really, really get to feel strongly what action and what attitude is going to serve you in this new way of being joyful, having the joystick, okay? You also, this is bringing you into your own sense of power, because power is not radiated from the personality. That is at best trying to keep things afloat and manage. Real power comes from the center of knowing who you really are. And that's where you're going. It is connected to intuition. It is connected to higher wisdom. It tends to carry you to where you desire to go. It's not your mind having to force it. Okay? So what you are being asked is, do it big. Commit to life. I love this. Engage fully with as much enthusiasm and activity from as many different angles as possible. Everything is an opportunity to apply yourself fully to the task at hand. There are no halfway measures. Aim for 100% engagement and do so with no sense of struggle or efforting. Do it with expansion rather than contraction around every activity. So that is going, just to me, like really seriously, if you go to YouTube and you listen to DAZZ Band SWOOP, I think you'll get a real sense of the energy of this. And what were the 80s? The 80s were very much, I mean, that's where I grew up. The 80s, my young adulthood there, it was like, it was a time of discovery. It was a time of extending beyond what was expected. It was discovery. It was fun. It was dancing. It was many things I didn't do. But there was a lot out there about expression and expansion and changing the rules up. So you might want to check into that just to get a feel of that energy. At the same time, what you're being asked to do is do your best when you're being challenged about what your choices are. Try not arguing about it. Try just listening and see how that makes you feel. Because a lot of times what will happen when we get challenged on something is, or even if we challenge ourselves, but let's say it's somebody else that you like or appreciate who's challenging you on something. Often just the idea of defending that idea makes us feel weak. If we just sit with it and let it be somebody else's opinion now, it's completely different. We're not taking it in. We're not saying, I have to justify this. And this is something that a lot of us do, especially I've noticed, well, certainly with domineering parents, but certainly many women that I know have this feeling that if they're asked a question or challenged on something, they have to answer and they have to justify. We don't. None of us do, men or women. We don't have to. We can just simply say, oh, that's yours, and this is mine. And if we want to go away and think about it later and give it some serious thought about whether or not there was any value in that, that's fine. But then you're doing it from a position of, I'm assessing this now myself, as opposed to, I am justifying myself to you. I think that's important because you're going to be changing things up. And you might come across, people who are going, what are you doing with those cowboy boots on? And always remember, please, that there is another you watching you. There is a higher you watching you. Engage in that. Remember that. Let yourself really lean in to the fact that there is a wise you who's helping you make these decisions, who's keeping you on the track of where power really comes from and what love really is. Okay? Now, for some of you, this might be really specifically about a love reading, but I have a feeling, Taurus, I have a feeling, Aquarius, I just did Taurus, that's why. I have a feeling, Aquarius, that it's so much more about you falling in love with you. And as you fall in love with you fall in love with life in a different way than you ever have before. I feel like this, you are really coming into a sense of who you've always been at a much deeper level, and that you're getting that. That you've always had a certain kind of wisdom about you, but childhood didn't always give you what you needed in order to be able to live fully in that. But also in some ways, having the childhoods that were not ideal caused you to grow a part of yourself earlier that you might not have otherwise. So let's just have no opinion about the past that's negative. It can be completely neutral. Just start from here. Live in gratitude, because that is one of your strongest, all of our strongest energies to manifest. And it just goes along with that appreciation of life that I'm talking about. Pink flamingos all the way, my friends. Pink flamingos all the way. I'm happy to leave you with this reading, Aquarius. Take care.